People of the internet, welcome to the Bad Hair Day Zone. And speaking of things that look in terrible condition, don't leave your laptop up against any kind of heater or radiator, because bad things will happen to it. Just a quick insert here from the editor's desk. This is the last video featuring the wobble cam mount. Normally I have my bench cam on a modified microphone stand, and I came across a bigger one which gives me more reach and range that the camera can do. However, this bigger one, because it has longer boom arms on it, it amplifies any desk vibration and wobble, all of that more, which is why it's been super bad recently. I'm going to change out that mount to either the old mount, which was a bit easier to manage, or B, I'm hoping that I can get the camera onto just a microphone stand that is free, that is just floor standing, which means it is independent from the desk, which will solve the problem entirely. So please bear with it. I was just going to put some text on the screen, but I'm editing this video at the moment and I'm like, oh, it's so bad. I need to acknowledge this. So yeah, please bear with it for one more video and I'll see you in the video. So, this laptop was left up against a radiator or a heater, or I can't remember what it was, the heat has just melted the plastics of the laptop. So this is surprisingly easy to do. The plastics they used for the body of a plastic consumer laptop and keyboard keys and stuff like that, probably not so much mechanical keyboard keys, but like consumer laptop keyboards, that kind of thing. They're very soft plastic. It does not take a lot of heat to melt them and do stuff like this. So you do need to be careful. Just don't leave things on hot surfaces, basically. So yeah. Now, this laptop is fully functional. It still works just fine. Just everything is bent out of shape. So what we're going to do is we're going to completely rehouse this laptop. And it's worth doing, really. It's got a 8th Gen i5 in it. This is kind of a matter of, you know, it's a reasonable amount of money to completely recase this laptop, but also it is more money to replace the laptop. So that's, the customer has opted to get it fixed. So I have preemptively bought a load of stuff in advance. I've got basically an entire chassis. We've got a new top case. The top case itself only has minor damage to it, but it's just enough out of shape that the laptop is never going to truly be straight with this top case on it. And I'm like, there's no point in doing half measures here. We either fix it properly or we don't bother. So I've got a new top case. It's in black just because that's all I could find at a good price, but the customer is okay with that. So new top case. That includes the keyboard as well. We've got to move the trackpad to there. And no, we don't need... we do on the power button because I think that's a fingerprint sensor as well. So we'll swap that over. Then I have a new display assembly, which solves this hinge area down here and also the back and stuff like that, which again is not a million miles out of shape, but again, half measures, etc., etc. In fact, also this back bit here, that's part of the top lid. So we have to replace this top lid in order to get rid of that. So yeah, that's why I opted for that. And then finally, the main bit that needs doing is we have a new bottom case as well. So there's the bottom case for the laptop. So as you can see, I've used mixed second-hand parts here to keep the cost down as much as possible. So that's that. So this is basically going to be an assembly job. So let's start taking this thing apart. So for this, we're going to start by removing the bottom panel. Some of these screws are already loose. We're missing a screw there as well, so we'll find a replacement for that while we're here. These Dells often have captive screws on the bottom, so watch out for those. I think it's usually the top row here that are captive, and then everything else will actually come out. Do we have screws on our new one? Yeah, we've got a top row of captive screws there, so that's fine. Assembly jobs like this, where you're literally just going to have to take out a lot of screws. This is the time where having an electric screwdriver is really handy. I haven't shilled it in a while, so here's a refresher. The electric screwdriver I use is a Secure SQ ES126. These are about $100, I think, last time I checked, so they're not cheap. However, this electric screwdriver has been a tank. I have got a lot of hours of use out of this thing. It's been a very, very handy tool to have. I do still use my wearers at the same time, and I would definitely recommend having a set of separate screwdrivers as the main ones, but having an electric boy for jobs like this where you're just having to pull out a whole bunch of screws just saves so much strain on your wrist. Once in a blue moon, obviously, it's not a big deal, but if you're like me and you're taking apart laptops all day, every day, your hands and your fingers will appreciate a break. Just pop that panel out. There we go. Oh, I missed a screw. There we go. There's a roll bottom case. It looks fine from inside. As I say, it's largely cosmetic, this damage. Right, we've got an SSD in this already, which is nice. Is that a little bit of liquid damage there? Just pull that back. No, that looks okay. Just a bit of a tide mark there. That might just be heat damage as well, though. Might just be where some warmth has come through and just started making something discolor. Nothing to be concerned about, I don't think. Okay, we'll take the display assembly off next. So, hinge screws out, disconnect any cables going to the screen. I should disconnect the battery first of all. Nearly forgot then. Not always, but often, laptops will have a always hotline going to the LCD screen. And if while disconnecting the screen, if I just bring that slightly sideways and just rub it across pins, I might have a 19-volt pin that I just short into a data line, which could blow something up. Or it might short to a ground and blow up the backlight fuse and stuff like that. And that's why it's very important to disconnect the battery if you're going to unplug the screen. Oh, that's very toast. Okay. Got a broken screw point up there. Which doesn't matter in the least because we're replacing literally all of the plastics anyway. And there's the body. Right, I'll put the display assembly to one side and we'll do that second. Right, what I'll do, because this is second hand, I think. Yeah, that's second hand. Because this is second hand, there's a lot of bits that are already on there. Randomly a magnet. That's come off from somewhere. It's mine now. Right, what I'll do, I'm going to put these side by side and just lift and place as required. So as suspected, we've got some extra stuff up in the corner here for the fingerprint sensor. So I'm just flipping out the power button board, and we've got a power button board on the replacement, but under here we've also got the fingerprint reader. So this is just a separate power button, and it goes along this ribbon to this extra board, which then goes back to the motherboard. And then the power button just sits underneath it as normal. So the power button itself is the same assembly as always. It just has a different bit sandwiched underneath it. So we'll pull this out and fit this to the replacement top case as well. One fingerprint assembly. Right. Let's get the main motherboard out, I think. Don't need that power button. Don't need the I/O board. Fan. What's actually still holding this in? Trackpad, we'll need that. Yeah. Fan screws back in. I'm trying not to have too much unscrewed at a time, because that drastically reduces the number of screws that I actually have to keep track of. Also means that I'm not ending up just pulling a lot of stuff out of the old chassis that I don't actually have to. I'm just taking out what I need. And I think all that's left now is the trackpad and the DC jack. So that guy has got a screw there holding it in. That's that. Stick that up there. And now the trackpad, which looks like we've got a row of screws along the top and these two guys here. And when swapping a trackpad over, one of the things that we want to watch out for is that patch there. That is a grounding strap. So this tape will be conductive, and that is just tying the ground plane of the back of the trackpad to chassis ground, which is just the metal plate holding the keyboard in. And it's really important that we make sure that that is strapped down somewhere, because otherwise the trackpad won't have a very good ground, and that will drastically reduce its ability to track properly. So that's something to watch out for. This plate itself we don't need. There's one on the destination already. So I'll just take that out so we're ready. And this plate basically serves as a stop point, and that leans against. There's a tactile clicker on the back of the trackpad there, and that is the mouse button. And all of the left-right mouse functionality is all done in software. There's only one physical button, and everything else is just handled by the trackpad's firmware to sense whether your finger is on the right or left of the trackpad. There we go, one trackpad. Quite a thick boy, this one. And that's all we need from here, so I'm going to throw that to one side. Actually, I'm going to nick that. Going to nick this BIOS battery, because this laptop isn't that old. The BIOS battery is probably good. Good for a spare, at least, I'm sure. You know, for testing with. Alright, now I should have done the trackpad before putting in the logic board. We have still got the grounding strap from the trackpad that was previously in this laptop, so I'm going to try and reuse that. Put that onto one side. Yeah, there we go. That's fine. It doesn't need to be like a work of art. As long as there's just something strapping it over to ground, that's what matters. As long as this is not floating. It's worth noting as well that this plate itself also has an earth connection over to this foil, which also goes up to chassis ground. But then on the other hand, I don't think this has a reliable earth connection to here. So that looks a bit intermittent to me. So I wouldn't rely on that as the ground point of the trackpad. There we go. Right, how does my black and white keyboard look? Ha. Well, it's mostly black. The silver power button and silver trackpad are striking, I would say. Looks a little bit different. The customer knew this was going to be, we were going to end up with this, and they were just like, yeah, that's fine with me. I don't care what color it is. Good. Just before we move on as well, we'll just check the voltage of the BIOS battery in the new chassis, just to make sure that's not catastrophically low. 300 flats. What's the old one at? The old one has been out of circuit, so this will read slightly high. .316. So even let's pretend that that's going to sag to 3.1 once it's in circuit. The old battery is actually in slightly better condition, so I'm going to swap those over. I generally recommend changing out a BIOS battery if it's, if it's below 3.1. These ones on the little fly leads, these are annoyingly expensive. I do keep them in stock. I always have a fresh one on the bench. But like the cheapest price I've found those at is like £2 each or something like that. So I'm less inclined to replace them on site if I don't have to. But considering the one that was in this chassis was down to 3.0, that's getting on the low side. Dell laptops will get upset if the BIOS battery is low. So, and once you go below 3 volts, all bets are off. So I would advise changing that if you can. This one's not new by any stretch of the imagination, but it's in acceptable condition. Okay, display assembly time. So, considering we're replacing all the plastics, I could be very ruthless with this. All I need to do is not break the LCD itself. However, we'll go with care, because always practice as if it matters. Even when you do technically have free reign to just rip everything apart. So I'm just going to go around the edge and just pry the bezel off. Okay, now the bottom will probably just pop off. This might be a little bit awkward because of the melted bits down the bottom here. That's going to put the clips at weird angles. May have even shut one of the clips entirely. No, I think we're good. There we go. Right, there's our bezel, which is melted. Right, lucky me, this LCD is not glued in. Or it's not taped in, rather. We've got the 4 screw points in the corners for here. So we'll zap those out. Right, one LCD. Needs a clean, but we'll do that once the laptop is reassembled. And now, just like with the bottom case, we need to do a comparison and see how much we need to move across. This display assembly I've bought looks pretty complete. Oh, they've even clicked it down into place. That's a little bit annoying. We have a display cable, we have wireless antennas, and we've got a webcam. And the webcam plugs in via... Webcam goes in via the display cable. So yeah, actually we don't need to transfer anything across. It's all there. Sometimes you're better off finding something that is used but in good condition. Just because it will have, like, all of the foam padding will be there and stuff like that. If I bought one of these brand new, the foam padding probably wouldn't be there. And just little disadvantages like that. So if your customer is okay with it, don't be afraid to buy used stuff. Obviously, you just check what condition it's in first, because you're kind of going to roll the dice on condition. And I've bought display assemblies before that have been sold as in good condition, and then when they've arrived, it's been just, they've been a wreck, a literal, like, e-waste wreck. And I've had to, like, literally just message the customer, the seller back and be like, what part of you thought this was fit to sell. You know, this is not remotely what you advertised it as. So buyer beware. It does, you know, you can get caught out, but ultimately, if you don't ask, you don't get, and it's part of the job is running that risk sometimes. LCD connect. If it has a locking bar, make sure it's closed. Make sure it's fully connected, because there's nothing worse than an LCD that's not working properly because you didn't quite plug it in right. And make sure you put the wires into any guides there are along, because this stops the wire from just straying into the way of the clips and then jamming things up when you start putting the front bezel back on. Alright, if the LCD was in really bad condition, I would give it a wipe at this point, because where the edges of it are exposed, it's very easy to get right around all of the tape around the edges and really get all of the gunk off of the LCD. But this one's in pretty good shape. It's dirty, it's got some smudges on it, but it's nothing that won't come off once the laptop is cleaned up. So I'm not going to fuss over that. I'm going to get the bezel and put it back on. So I'll start from the bottom. Just make sure that that is all clicked in nicely. And then go around the edges. And just go round. Don't worry if everything doesn't go in first time. Just get it all lined up. And then just keep going round and round until you've closed up all of the gaps. Whoops. Display cable is getting pinched there. Let's just fix that. Oh no, there we go. That's it. That's fine. Display cable was just getting pinched just there in that gap you can see. But we've just cleared that out, so that's all right now. Just watch out for stuff like that. Right, I've just put the battery back in here, so now we'll turn it round and we can refit the display assembly. Oh, actually, no, we can do that from here on this one. Stick that in there. Close those hinges down. Alright, hinge screws going back in. And usual rules apply when putting in hinge screws. Have a look for which screw holes have an arrow pointing at them. So just for good measure, I shall show you. So as you can see, that hole's got an arrow pointing to it. So has that one. And that one as well. However, that one there does not have an arrow pointing at it. There's writing there, but no arrow. So that means we leave that one empty. That's a chassis screw. Right. I think that's everything. So I shall plug the battery back in. The thing for the power. That goes there. Back cover on top. With the remnants of someone's dorky void stickers. Probably should have powered it on before clicking this back cover on, but I like to live dangerously. Usual rules apply though. If I put all of these screws in and then it doesn't work, I will take 10 points of psychic damage and be immediately killed. Right, all fully reassembled now with no more melted bits on it. And complete with one-of-a-kind two-tone internals. Does it turn on? We've got a caps lock light. We've got sign of life. The battery has been unplugged, so it's probably going to take it a moment to post. Oh, I saw a flash from the LCD then. There we go. One Dell logo. So that should start booting up straight away. It has an SSD, so it shouldn't take it long to start up. I say, as it takes a while to start up. Battery is critically low. Okay, that's fine, yeah. We'll turn that off for now, because I want to clean it first anyway. It works, though, is the important thing. Good. Right. Time to get the cloth, wipe this thing down, and we're done. Right, get ready for a lot of camera wobbling, everyone. The camera stand I'm using at the moment hasn't worked out very well. It's a slightly... I got a taller and longer one, so it had better reach, but it wobbles too much. I'm probably going to put the camera on a microphone stand that is floor standing from behind the desk, and that will solve this problem. So for anyone who's been a bit like sort of, oh, your camera wobbles loads now, I know, I'm working on it. However, I took the old arm home, so I don't have it to hand, so whatever. Anyway, I'm using Tesco window and glass, or actually this has been refilled from a local refill centre that refills your plastic bottles with household stuff in them. It's very good. It's very affordable as well, and it helps save on plastic waste. So I'm just going to wipe this down. No idea what that blue smudge is on the trackpad. It looks like marker pen or something, but it's gotten into the grain of the trackpad, so it doesn't want to come out. Just as an experiment, I'm just going to put a little bit of isopropyl alcohol onto that. And I'm just going to rub that in with my finger. Yeah, look at that. It's marker pen. The alcohol is thin enough that it's sinking down into the grain and just diluting that out. And so just a little bit of rubbing and that'll just come right off. Really good if there's been a kid who's just drawn all over a laptop with marker pens. There we go. Isopropyl alcohol isn't a very good cleaning agent because it doesn't have any soapiness or anything in it. It does lift dirt a little bit, but it doesn't. I don't know. It's difficult to say. It doesn't clean very well, basically. However, what it's very good at is just thinning stuff down, like marker, like sticky residues and that kind of thing. So next we're going in with multi-surface polish, Mr. Sheen of any variety, and we're going to squirt this on the plastics, but not on the LCD. This will smudge something fierce on the LCD. So just onto the plastics, and this is going to make it go nice and smooth and smell nice. Lovely. There we go, and we are all finished. So that is one fixed up laptop. Thank you very much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.